So I'm going to show you guys something about the wiring table and the Cutlist templates. So right now we have a generic ECU with 3 pressure transducers. You got a coolant, a fuel, and oil. You got a sensor ground splice and a 5-volt splice. I'm going to add contacts to here. When you're doing this, you can just click and drag, or you can do control. You can do shift. If you got some in several areas, you can control shift, and drag all these. We're focusing on these. Our internal part number is NC for Super Seal 1.0 20 to 22 gauge. So put that on there. Now if you're looking at the wiring table, it shows some go from 5 volt, some go to 5 volt. I did that on purpose for this video. Now you'll see from contact, the splices obviously won't have one, but then these ones that go to a component doesn't have a contact. So what I like to do is over here you go to wiring table template, right click, open design, and you'll want to clone it because this is the default one that they have. You can't mess with theirs, but you can clone it, and now you can change the wiring table. So we'll edit columns. We'll go see what these are. From and to are where you put them when you did your connections. So you can always go from the ECU out, or you can go from the component back to the ECU, or you can mix and match. There's different reasons for doing them all, but once you get this set up, it doesn't really matter. Your conductor is the wire number, the cable wire number, and it'll also show the color in a little box, blue, tan, whatever. The part number of the conductor, that's good to have. Twisted width, if you twist a lot, it's nice to see that in there. The wire size, the length, from and to contact. So if you click this, it'll show both ends of it. If you do wire seals, our pressure transducers have a wire seal. The ECU side does not. Notes if you want. You get down here, here's conductor again. It's just a redundant one they put in there, because down here they have conductor IPN, which is internal part number. So if you have the factory OEM, Delphi, or Tyco part numbers, and you want to have your own internal part numbers, you can set every component up that way. We just set them all up with our internal part number as the regular one, because before all this was added, we've had our database set up pretty good. If you want to do the strips, you can put them on here. The strips, I'll show you where later in a different video how to set the strips up. The strips you actually set with the conductors, I believe. We don't use the strips on here. We have a big wire machine that has the strips correlated with each contact, so that's automatic. We don't need that, but you can have that set up. From to wire seal, internal part number, etc. So this will give you, if you select all these, it'll give you the most useful data. The other thing you want to do is this box right here, include reverse connections. So on this, where we have from 5 volt to field pressure 2, it'll duplicate it and flip it. So it'll say from field pressure 2 to 5 volts. Now that's not very helpful in here, but when you do an export, it becomes very helpful, and I'll show that. So if you do that, click that box, click save. So we'll go over here, we'll right click this, we will change design. As you see, I got a couple. I got one here, I just call it double wires, which is basically the same as this one, I'm guessing. We got one for our cutter. We have a big cut machine that'll cut it, strip it, put seals on it, and crimp it all in one motion. So this is the template we use when I export that for our my employee that cuts the wire out. We'll just set this up. So now if you look, you have your 5 volt splice, every wire is shown. Coolant 1, 2, 3, and where it goes. ECU 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where they go. Fuel pressure 1, 2, 3, where they go. Oil, where they go, and the sensor ground, where they go. And they also have the color of the wire, your conductor part number, we just use the number and the gauge and the color. Twisted width, nothing. Size 20 gauge. Length, I didn't set any lengths, but if I were to go 4 inches there, I like to keep 2 between my splices. Two from the splice to the branch. Now if you want all these the same size, you can click Control, right click, edit bundle length. This would be nice to have a hotkey for the bundle lengths. And on your wiring table, it'll have the wire length, the contacts on both ends, and the wire seal. One thing Rapid Harness does not do is add any length for your splices. So up here, you can edit lengths. What I'll do is you can add, for ours we have a sonic welder, so our splices would be a 1/2 inch on both wires. So I usually just add a 1/4 inch to anything that's got a splice. So my splices are 5 volt. So now these I can do 6.25. I wish it just knew that everything was in inches so I wouldn't have to hit this apostrophe. So ours would be set up like that. Anyways, so if you export this, then when you're in Excel, you can just insert a couple lines here and you have the pinout of every single component from both ends. And if someone's like, hey, what's all on that 5 volt splice? Boom, you got a list. Hey, I got the coolant sensor in my hand. I want to troubleshoot it. Where's the other wire go? It'll tell you where it goes. So that's what's nice about having the double wires. Now the Cutlist, we'll do that too. We'll look at that. So the Cutlist template is actually very similar. Except it doesn't have the duplicate wires. So you can't do reverse connections on the Cutlist, which makes sense because you don't want to get confused cutting the wires out. This is more for when you're processing the wires. The other one's for when you're wiring up something. The one thing that this table has that the other one doesn't have is the to part number and from part number. These are the actual connectors. So I wish these were shown in the wiring table, but they're not. That's not a big deal. And then over here you have all the, a row number. It's 1 through however many, so you can get a count. It's helpful when you have cables and stuff. The type, it'll tell you if it's a cable or a wire, which in a production facility it's nice to know because on our big machine we can't do the cables. We got to do them on a different machine. The designator to match up, wire 1, etc. Manufacturer, if that matters. We usually disable that. Part number, color, size, all this is important for the cutting. Like I said, the only difference this one has from the other one really is you can have the connector on it, but you can't do the reverse connections. So you can modify your Cutlist. We have a different, discard that, I don't need that. We have a different Cutlist. And you can either change the template over, you can right click on it and change design, or just in each template right click change. That's where I usually do it. So we have one here for I guess there is one for double wires. So for our Cutlist, so on ours we have all this info, but this spits out the length and the contacts on either end, and I can hand that to my guy that cuts the wire out and he'll know what to do. It doesn't show the wire seals. Kind of wish it did, but whatever. Sometimes the wire seals, they're all the same. On this one, term IA, which is our GT150 socket, we'll have seal 21, and that's reference here. But this one, this table right here, when you set it up right, it's good for an export to a spreadsheet. So you have a from to list that's all inclusive from both directions and has a lot more information, where this you could sit down, build all your wires, and then pin them from this.